characteristics.
Rising water, melting snow in Utah floods more communities.
Now we're just at the whim of Mother Nature here.
Remembering more. A look back 10 years after the last EF5 tornado struck the U.S.
If you can live through this, other things get a whole lot easier.
The buzz in D.C. Bees are making a comeback in our nation's capital.
We've had the messaging of love all bees and save the bees for, about a decade now.
And a lightning lesson that could help save your life.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Hurricane season officially begins June 1st, but the National Hurricane Center is already watching a storm near the Bahamas, and some models say there could be something even bigger on Memorial Day weekend. Meteorologist Lauren Oleski is here with the details.
So right now, the National Hurricane Center is monitoring a wave that's off the coast of Florida right now, but very low development chances, only a 10% chance of development through the next 2 to 7 days. What we're then going to shift our eyes to is a front boundary that will be moving across the southeast this week. We could see an area of low pressure develop along this boundary, and it could maybe get some kind of subtropical or tropical characteristics as it then pulls off towards the northeast. Regardless if this turns into anything tropical or not, we're likely going to see a bit of a soggy weekend across parts of the southeast. This is a look at rainfall totals between now and Sunday at 1 o'clock in the morning. Could get a little soggy along the east coast of Florida. Overall, all across the southeast, we could see anywhere from about 1 to 4 inches of rain for the rest of this week and as we approach your Memorial Day weekend.
More than 36,000 people have been evacuated from their homes following those devastating floods in northeastern Italy. At least 14 people have died since the flooding started more than a week ago. More than 20 rivers overflowed, triggering hundreds of landslides. Flooding is also devastating farmland and also drowning livestock. The extreme rainfall is being blamed on climate change. And now to Utah, where officials are warning about flooding as warmer temperatures continue to melt the snowpack after a very hefty winter. Emma Riley spoke with some residents of North Ogden who were supposed to find extra water in their neighborhoods, but not so terribly surprised.
Well, I walk up here just about every day to walk around the track, but it don't look like I'm going to make it today.
Residents living in the neighborhood were surprised to see water from Orton Park overflowing onto the corner of 2050 North and 600 East in North Ogden.
I came down here looking at it and see what's going on. The city was right on it. They'd done their part, so now we're just at the whim of Mother Nature here. Just waiting to see what happens.
Monroe says some of his neighbors have been preparing to deal with flooding.
There's been some people kind of preparing, putting sandbags on this road and I think this road over here, right over, but nobody really expected this to overflow and come off the way it is.
North Ogden resident Wendy Putnam says her kids played soccer in this field for years, so they came down to check out the flooding.
We're super grateful for the water. We haven't had the water that we've needed for a long time, so we're super grateful for that. And we're grateful for those people that have planned ahead and that have prepared so that hopefully there will be little damage.
Although it was alarming to those who live on the street, city officials say the detention basin is doing exactly what it's designed to do.
This weekend marked 10 years since a massive tornado devastated Moore, Oklahoma. 24 people lost their lives. It was the last time an EF5 tornado struck the United States. Meteorologist Jack Gerfin says even 1 decade later, the memories are still fresh for those who experienced that twister and for those who had to warn them it was on the way.
The event 10 years ago is etched into the minds of Oklahomans. Like many noteworthy events in history, you remember exactly where you were and what you were doing.
This is a different kind of day.
It's a day those at the National Weather Service in Norman will never forget. Back in 2013, the May 20th tornado was a very well forecast event. For days, meteorologists had outlined central Oklahoma as an area of severe weather development.
This was a day we've been looking at, anticipating since about May 14th or 15th.
Meteorologically, it was the perfect setup with plenty of instability and shear with well-placed fronts and a southeast wind. The Storm Prediction Center had Oklahoma in a moderate risk that morning, and in conjunction with the National Weather Service in Norman, issued a tornado watch shortly after 1 p.m. The EF5 tornado would touch down nearly 3 hours later near Newcastle. Within 39 minutes, the tornado would claim 24 lives directly and destroy $2 billion worth of property within its 17-mile path. Mary Dressler, her husband, and her dogs are all survivors. We spoke with Mary minutes after the tornado passed in 2013 as she wandered around her destroyed neighborhood, not knowing how she would make it. Today, she has those answers.
You just have to be willing to humble yourself, because my husband and I are very independent, but we realized we couldn't do it on our own.
In the years after the Moore tornado, she installed a storm shelter in her new home and always takes warnings seriously. Good insurance helped her family bounce back. She replaced her beloved Mustang and now lives in the house of her dreams. And it's a long way to come from the devastation of 10 years ago.
Our living room's gone, our kitchen's gone, our mailbox went through our front door.
To now thriving.
If you can live through this, other things get a whole lot easier.
Contestants in the ocean race are back at it. They have left Rhode Island and are now on their way to Denmark. A Newport man is traveling with the crew on a vessel called the 11th Hour Racing Team, but his role is unique. Taylor Rocha has that story.
Amory Ross grew up landlocked in New Jersey.
The house was covered in pictures and paintings of boats and sailing, and I used to kind of live vicariously through what I see on the walls and magazines.
For a couple of weeks every summer, Ross would live out his fantasies, visiting his grandparents in Newport.
They were easily my favorite weeks of the year, and as soon as I was kind of old enough to figure out where I wanted to be and had the means to get there, Newport became my home.
Rhode Island being one of the only North American stops on the ocean race meant Ross would be able to show teammates and competitors why Newport has always been one of his most cherished places.
Newport comes out in droves. I mean, it seems like the entire state sometimes is walking around the fort here.
Ross's role in the ocean race is a unique one. Every crew has one member on board who isn't a sailor. Onboard reporters like Ross are restricted to media duties and are not allowed to help with the performance of the boat. That can get difficult, especially when problems arise.
You see your teammates struggling and you're standing there and you can't help, and that's really hard. But I put that energy into telling their story.
Winter storms that pounded California this year could soon help uncover treasure in some mountains and also some streams. We're talking about gold, as in what brought prospectors to the state in the 1800s. Myra Franco went looking for gold with a local prospector north of Fresno.
This is what you call your eureka moment.
California is on the brink of a new gold rush, according to Andy Brooks. He's the president of Central Valley Prospectors. He experienced a eureka moment Thursday in the mountains of Madera County, though we can't reveal the exact location. It only took a gold pan, a shovel, and a bucket.
It's really quite good. It's hard work. You're not going to get rich at it. Unless you're lucky, you probably hit the lottery before you get rich at mining gold. But there's so many of the things you get out of it.
Like the local history and geology behind it. Brooks has been doing this for 40 years. Because of that, he knows the recent storms that drenched California brought what he and other enthusiasts call the flood gold to rivers and streams.
This amount of water, it's the way it fell. It wasn't just the amount of rain we had. It's the fact that it never quit raining. When you get this much runoff and this much rain, it starts to move a lot of material. And when the river down below was flooding, all that material got churned up, redeposited. $60 a gram right now, maybe 58. So this doesn't amount to more than a few dollars. What you have to go through to get to it enriches you as much as the gold does.
Here's a question. How much does New York City weigh? Believe it or not, there's an answer for that, and it's roughly 1.7 trillion pounds, the estimated combined weight of the skyscrapers. According to a new geological study published in the journal Earth's Future, the buildings are so heavy they are pushing the city down 1 to 2 millimeters per year. Now, that right there may not sound like a lot, but keep in mind sea levels are rising at the same time as well. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, you might know the best way to tell a storm's distance, but we'll show you the best way to know how far away a lightning strike actually is. Plus, we'll take a look at the rooftop communities where thousands of honeybees live right here in Washington, D.C.
High pressure builds in for the day on Monday, and temperatures are going to start in the 50s for most areas throughout the Northeast. Notice a sea breeze developing right along the coastline. Only 58 degrees in Boston, 63 degrees in Portland. Head into Albany, 74 degrees. But notice lack of precipitation, lots of sunshine expected as we head through the day on Monday. Temperatures will run in the low to mid 70s for most, cooler at the coastline with lower 60s expected.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Up and down the 95 corridor, starting off with pleasant temperatures in the 60s by lunchtime. Look at that. We're at 77 Baltimore and 77 at Richmond, near 80 degrees as we welcome in the new work week. And that goes for about 4 or 5 o'clock. So open windows on the commute home as well. You're going to need some sunglasses, too, as fair weather high pressure is our main weather maker for the day and will remain so actually for much of the week. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. We're seeing 82 degrees in Nashville, Tupelo about 81 degrees, 88 in Mobile, 82 Raleigh, looking at about 73 Atlanta, 74 in Macon, as well as Birmingham. We're seeing some showers and thunderstorms in these areas for the afternoon. Also, we're looking at Tampa and West Palm. You can see a little bit of rain possibility as we go through the mid-morning afternoon, popping up, especially across Florida, southern Georgia, and parts of Alabama. Expecting some thunderstorms later through the afternoon.
The National Weather Desk.
NOAA is embarking on its 7th summer of urban heat island mapping. Every year, they partner with a new batch of cities to track hot temperatures and uncover inequities. Emily Gracie spoke to them to find out why this is an issue and the success they've already seen come out of this project.
So there's a lot of reasons that cities are hotter than your rural or even kind of suburban neighborhoods. So just the nature of cities itself. So the built environment of a city, your taller buildings, typically more concrete and asphalt in these areas, more confined, and typically less green space, again, than your rural areas. And this can lead to cities being, in some cases, 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit hotter.
So are the tools the same this year?
Yes, exact same tools. So volunteers will attach a sensor that captures air temperature and humidity data, and they will go out either in cars or in bikes and attach these sensors to those vehicles and ride around for 3 times during the day, in the morning, the afternoon, and the evening, to be able to capture that data to give us a sense of what the urban heat island effect is in each city.
Have you seen any really big projects come out of the heat mapping that you've done?
Honolulu, Hawaii, which did their mapping back in 2019 or 2020, they were able to work with the chief resilience officer and able to implement a huge tree planting campaign down there. And but even in Raleigh, North Carolina, they were able to fund asphalt renovations to really increase the solar reflectivity to decrease their urban heat island effect.
Are there some simple ways that people in their communities can avoid heat-related illness and death?
A big thing is hydrating with water, of course, throughout the day, and avoiding sugary beverages or drinks with caffeine. Making sure to cover some windows that receive morning or afternoon sun, maybe with some drapes or shade, to really block out some of the incoming heat. And also to begin preparing, it's worth building an emergency kit and making a family communication plan, especially if during a large-scale heat wave, there could be some of the power going out with just the increased energy usage in your city.
And if you want to hear more about urban heat island inequities, make sure you check out our podcast. There's an episode focused on the topic called From Red Lighting to Red Hot. Search Off the Radar wherever you get your podcasts. Well, tomorrow is World Bee Day. And you may not know it, but there are hundreds of thriving rooftop communities where thousands of honeybees live near the nation's capital. Caroline Patrick explains all of the buzz from just outside of Washington, D.C.
On this Tyson's rooftop.
Yeah, these are pretty chill bees.
Right. Something buzzworthy is happening.
Gonna go say hello.
Shay Nooner is tending to his bees, approximately 40,000 of them.
On my day-to-day basis, I'm just driving around to different hives and seeing what they need and giving them some help and maybe a little bit of food.
He's an urban beekeeper with Alveol, an international company that installs hundreds of beehives across the DMV, like the one you see here.
So bees pollinate about a third of every bite of food that we eat.
The hidden beehives aren't just a way for businesses to learn about beekeeping and the importance of the bee, but a way to help the bee community that's been struggling for years.
We've had the messaging of love all bees and save the bees for about a decade now, right? And so we use that familiarity with those bees to get people thinking about the green spaces around them, about how to maximize the use of a rooftop like this.
Jordan Freeman has researched bees for 5 years. He says the bees here know Shay, who's responsible for many of our rooftop hives. Together, they manage hundreds around the DMV.
So being able to regreen those spaces, get people thinking about that, get people thinking about their food system. Honey.
We head to Rhode Island where a few birds got some extra wind beneath their wings when they had an extended fly-off last week. They're back where they belong. Another song, and RJ Helms tracks their journey.
The three birds of a feather, all the ones mainly green in color with red stripes, all military macaws, went a little further than expected during their training flight on Tuesday.
These guys got blown a little off course in high winds the other day and just went a bit outside of the area that they're familiar with.
This whole flock is on loan with their handlers up from Florida to southern New England in the fair weather months. The birds are put through flight training missions to familiarize themselves with their new temporary territory. Short flights of a few feet starting on day one become yards, then quarter miles and longer over the weeks, sometimes launched from a bucket lift with a promise of treats to bring them back.
These guys are usually comfortable flying 1.5 miles. They can certainly go further than that, and in the wild they might fly 7 to 11 miles a day.
Right here is where those macaws were seen and reported after their overnight fly-off by students here at Gladstone Street School in Cranston. They took flight from the Silver Lake location, but were spotted again, then picked up in the Garden City section of Cranston.
As soon as we got there, they came right down.
You can't really blame the macaws for itching to spread their wings and take off on a little overnight fly-off.
When they're out and we don't know where they are, absolutely we'd worry. But as soon as we find them again and they come straight down, it's great to have them home.
Hi.
Well, as a child, you may have learned the best way to tell how far away a thunderstorm is. Meteorologist Lindsay Storrs says it's a good lesson for adults to know as well.
One of my favorite things to do in the summertime is to sit on my front porch and watch thunderstorms roll by. I love it so much. And I still count the number of seconds between when I see the lightning strike and when I hear the thunder in order to figure out how far away that lightning is. Did you know that this isn't just a fun thing that kids do? There's actually science behind it. The general rule of thumb is that sound can travel at about 1/5 mile per second. So if it takes 5 seconds between when you see the lightning and when you hear that thunder, that lightning bolt is about 1 mile away. I say about 1 mile away because the speed of sound actually depends on the temperature of the air. Sound can travel faster in warmer air than it can in cold air. So if it's an 80-degree day, the thunder will only take about 4.5 seconds to travel 1 mile. Now, if you're really far away from a thunderstorm, say 10 plus miles away, you may see the lightning but never hear the thunder. This is because sound dissipates as it moves outward, so eventually it becomes so faint that humans can no longer hear it. This is called heat lightning.
Smoke from the wildfires in Canada is drifting far and wide. It's impacting vistas and numerous places right here in the U.S. Meteorologist Aaron Zahn says there's another effect of that smoke.
Just as an example of how far wildfire smoke can travel, many states across the country are experiencing hazy days and very colorful sunrises due to wildfire smoke drifting all the way down from Canada. And to give you an idea of what that can do to our weather, that blanket of smoke can actually make days a few degrees cooler and nights a few degrees warmer. So it does have an impact beyond our air quality.
Time now for a short break. We leave you with farm views in North Carolina.
Well, a very good Monday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Taking a look at weather story across the Midwest here. Things are pretty quiet for most of us. Warming up, a lot of 70s and 80s all across the Midwest. And as we head on into your Tuesday, got a little rain maybe way up to the north there. But for the most part, most of us are dry on Tuesday. This dry pattern looks to set up for a while. So be prepared for some warm and dry weather for not only for this week, but pretty much for the next couple of weeks.
Good Monday morning. I'm meteorologist Jody Carlo. Look at our forecast across the region. Well, we are starting off on the quiet and cool side, 50s and 60s across a good portion of that higher humidity. As we head throughout the day, much of the area stays quiet, highs in the 70s and 80s. We do watch, though, for severe weather across portions of the Texas Panhandle into West Texas. Strong to severe storms this evening, pushes towards the I-35 corridor this evening, and then we'll cool to the 50s and 60s overnight.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the West. The Pacific Northwest was cooling down through the day yesterday, and now that cooler air is pushing into parts of the Rockies. As the temperatures drop down into parts of Colorado and Wyoming, we have a cold front moving in, and this cold front is going to spawn showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Further inland for the Rockies, definitely, but also down towards Utah and Nevada. A new low pressure for the Pacific Northwest. That's the scene from here.
The first Saturday in June is set aside to honor the country's trails and also their use. Eric Peterson shows us how Wisconsin is going to celebrate.
We're looking forward to just getting people out on our trails, saying goodbye to the winter and the cold spring, and getting out and relaxing and finding out what's waking up and what's wild out there.
Communications coordinator Nancy Naback says Woodland Dunes is one of 9 different locations in Manitowoc and Brown counties that are offering free hikes on June 3rd. The hikes will be guided, but people are encouraged to branch out.
Oh, look at him.
And explore at their own pace.
One of the things that I think I appreciate about hiking is that it really doesn't cost anything. You know, it's a low maintenance sport. It helps you center. You know, getting out, your blood pressure drops, your vision changes, you're not on your screens. So everything sort of comes to focus again inside of your system, and you just get to experience the joy, the natural beauty that's around you, the sounds, the smells. It's all there for you.
And we love to share your weather content on air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. And thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll take a look at the different ways weather can impact sailing, and some of them may actually surprise you. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Monday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.